Racing fans around the world hold their breath in anticipation, wondering if Andrea Iannone, the once unstoppable force on the track, will ever make a triumphant return. Will Iannone once again take the checkered flag, or is his career over for good? It's been years, an eternity for some, since the sound of Andrea Iannone's bike echoed across the MotoGP track. The once legendary racer had been stripped of his glory, his name tainted by the stench of doping. But fortunately for fans, whispers of his return are growing louder by the day. With the end of his ban just months away, fans and also rivals have begun the countdown to his long-awaited comeback. Speculation is rampant. Are the rumors true? Was Iannone really spotted on the streets of Italy, revving the engine of a Ducati Panigale V4? And could it be possible that he's reuniting with his former teammate and official test rider, Michele Pirro? Well, you are about to find out. If you're a die-hard MotoGP fan, you've probably already heard of Andrea Iannone, the Italian stallion from Vasto. But for those who haven't had the pleasure of witnessing his heart-pumping battles and unapologetic riding style, you're in for a treat. Among a class full of complex characters, Iannone stood out with his true personality, a strong talent with raw aggression that made him a force to be reckoned with on the track. But it appears like the 30-year-old Italian's career might end prematurely just as he was about to enter his peak, due to some past mistakes. The Maniac, as people popularly called him, has always been very passionate about the sport. He began his career at a young age, dominating in minimoto racing before moving up to the Italian and Spanish championships, and eventually winning the 125cc World Championship in 2005. Even though Iannone was a solid contender, he never stood out as a huge talent during his time in the 125cc class. And it wasn't just about his talent. There was also something memorable from that time he headbutted Pol Espargaro in the gravel trap following an incident at the 2009 San Marino Grand Prix. Despite his complicated beginnings, Iannone instantly turned into occasional winner, especially in tricky conditions. The Moto2 class was rocked by the Maniac's entry, which shocked the entire racing community. He didn't take long to prove himself, even frequently competing against riders like Marc Marquez and Stefan Bradl. He did well in the competition, finishing third 3 years in a row. But even though being third wasn't the best result he could get, it was evident that the Maniac had a bright future in front of him. His talent on the track definitely didn't go unnoticed, and soon Pramac Racing came knocking, offering him a spot for a MotoGP move. Iannone accepted the challenge, moving up to the Premier class in 2013 to join the factory team for Ducati. It was the MotoGP, and he knew he had to bring his A-game. It was a pivotal moment for the young rider and one that could define his career. Luckily for him, he didn't disappoint, delivering an impressive 5th-place finish in the championship as top Desmosedici racer, leaving veteran teammate Andrea Dovizioso in the dust. Remaining with the team for 2016, it looked like it would be Iannone's time to shine, until everything started to go wrong almost as soon as the season started. First came Qatar, and during the opening race of the season, Iannone can be seen racing with his teammate Dovizioso for the lead, when he suddenly crashed out only 6 laps in. But it was 2 weeks later in Argentina, when the pair resumed their battle, that things really came to a worse point. By that time, Ducati was waiting half a decade to win another championship, and they knew they had to make some big moves to change their fortunes. So the Italians set their sights on securing the signature of Jorge Lorenzo, poaching the 5-time world champion away from Yamaha to replace Andrea for 2017. That means that either one of the Andreas had to go. This was a very hard decision to make because Iannone was the fastest rider, but Dovizioso was the most consistent and he always brought in points. As the season progressed, Iannone's impressive form seemed to be edging him ahead, and Dovizioso looked like he would be on his way out. But then came the disastrous last lap at Termas de Rio Hondo, when Iannone made the worst decision he could have possibly made. He lunged on Dovizioso, taking them both out of the race and denying Ducati a guaranteed double podium. Iannone lost more than just points that day. He lost practically everything for Ducati. This way, we all knew it, and when the news came that Iannone and Ducati had parted ways, we felt bad for the racer but weren't too surprised. Iannone later had to sign for Suzuki the following year. He replaced Maverick Vinales there, but Suzuki's season was massively compromised before it had even begun, all thanks to Iannone's decisions. Iannone will find a seat at Suzuki, but Suzuki at this stage had just joined the MotoGP a couple years earlier, and they weren't at their best. And in 2018, when the GSX-R got a bit better, Iannone got outperformed by his rookie teammate, and it was once again time for Iannone to move on at the end of the season. We can argue that the Aprilia is the worst bike on the grid by a mile, but on paper, the move to Aprilia had the potential for success for Iannone. A rapidly improving bike, a team under new management consisting of former Ferrari Formula One boss Massimo Rivola and joining fellow Suzuki refugee Alex Espargaro, plus the Italian atmosphere inside Aprilia, all of these promise to get the best out of Iannone. But again, decisions taken by the Maniac meant that he self-sabotaged before the season even got started. Despite winning the Australian Grand Prix, finishing in an impressive 6th place out of 22, and also how incredibly talented he is, 2019 would turn out to be the last year for the Maniac. Undergoing a radical physical transformation since leaving Ducati as his fame in Italy increased, he was unable to ride at the pre-season Sepang test due to perhaps the greatest excuse in the history of motorsport. An infection and a recent cosmetic surgery to his jawline meant Iannone was unable to pull on his helmet, leaving him sitting on the sidelines as Espargaro and newly signed test rider Bradley Smith took on testing duties. This is pretty bad, right? Well, they are about to get even darker for Iannone. Just as Aprilia set itself up for a radical revamp of its entire MotoGP project that looks set to pay off in 2020, Iannone failed a post-race drug test at the Malaysian Grand Prix. He tested positive for the anabolic steroid drostanolone, and the penalty? An 18-month ban from any motorcycle racing. Iannone immediately moved towards an appeal, mentioning that he had eaten contaminated meat. The FMI acknowledged this, and he appeared like he had the potential to escape the 18-month ban. But after a further 8 months of twists, appeals, and counter-appeals, the 18-month ban he hoped to overturn now became a 4-year ban. This meant that Iannone will only be able to race a motorcycle again in 2024. It's likely that we've seen the last of one of the era's most aggressive riders, and he's departing not with fanfare, but an embarrassing controversy. Sadly, some fans have suggested that the drugs found in the system might simply be for his good looks, and in no way intended to enhance his performance. In the end, Iannone only has himself to blame. All the bottlenecks, the modeling, the influencer lifestyle, this double lifestyle that Iannone wanted to enjoy unfortunately became the very thing that ended his motorcycling career. Now we are forced to imagine, what could have been of Iannone if he didn't crash into Dovizioso in Argentina? For context, the 5-time world champion Jorge Lorenzo, one of the best riders that separated this paddock in 2017, couldn't get a single win on a Ducati. We miss Iannone, not just because he was exceptionally skilled, but his lightning-fast abilities that set him apart from the rest. But now, we can't help but wonder, will he ever be given a second chance? Iannone will be once eligible for the 2024 season and would retain 2 crucial attributes, according to race expert Carlo Pernit: his blistering speed and his ability to promote himself, which could make him a valuable asset for any team willing to give him a second chance. Like this video, subscribe for more.